Hello everyone, this is Sharon Mistretta, and welcome to a program that demonstrates using loops to move along what a sprite says and does in a program. This is a screenshot of a program that is on the Scratch website that is used as a demonstration for the remixing and reusing of someone else's program during our computational thinking lesson. And what I wanted to point out here is that the student is doing what is typical of students that have not learned best practices yet, and that is that they concatenate the lines. So you have if you can see it here, they have a green flag. I'm going to make it as big as I can. Then they're going to switch a costume. Then they are going to do wait a certain number of seconds, and then concatenate the think and say blocks. And what I want to argue is that that is not using computational thinking to let the program do the work for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to minimize that example of what not to do. And I want to show you a program that I developed so that I can show you what you should do. So what I did was I used the same backdrop and sprite that the student had used in the Scratch Ed video. But I wanted to show you that I've created a couple of variables, and these variables are used to keep track of the program and move it along. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press the green flag, and I'm going to show you what the program does. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move along this little sprite so that she says a series of lines and then changes her costume, which is essentially her position on the screen. So I'm going to click the green flag, and it's going to say, welcome to my program that demonstrates loops. And then I just filled a list, which we used in the 3-question quiz assignment. So I filled a list, and all it says right now is this is my first line, this is my second line, this is my third line, this is my fourth line, and this is my fifth line. And each time she changes her position, and then she will say bye at the end. So here she comes, and she is going to end with bye and then stand up again. So the way that I did that is I created a list, and the list is called what to say, and I'm just going to show it now, but I do hide it at the beginning of the program. So what it is doing is it's just a list of her lines. And these, of course, can be any lines that you want your student to create. What I did was I illustrated it with first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, so you can see that it aligns with the counter that I move along the script. So this is something that I hide at the beginning of the program. So I have my sprite stand where she is. I reset. Now, it's important to have a reset at the beginning with your green flag routine so that you're placing your sprite and all your variables to the very beginning. Because if you don't do that and you are repeating your program to test it, the variables will continue from where they are. Because right now the ballerina number of lines is a static 5 that I put it at, and then I do the counter so that it's greater than 5. So I'm going to demonstrate that now. So what I have at the beginning of the program is I switched to the costume that is ballerina A. So let's look at the costumes. So here I have ballerina A is where she's standing, B, C, ballerina A, B, C, and D. So those are the 4 different positions that she takes in her ballet positions. What I'm doing here is also, I did not want the list to stay up. That's not needed. So I hide the list, and I also delete what's ever in it, because if the students want to switch what the sprite is saying, then they have to delete. So it's always a good practice to delete whatever is in your list at the beginning of your program. I'm setting a counter back to 1, and then here are the number of lines that I want her to say. So it's also the number of lines that are in the list. And then I have a broadcast start the show. The start the show contains 2 broadcasts. One is fill the script, and the other is ballerina talks. So again, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to make my code very concise. So here I'm going to fill the script of what I want her to say. And here is the same thing that we did in our 3-question quiz. If the length of what to say, which is our list, is 0, then I'm going to fill it. And of course, I set my list to 0 at the very beginning. So I want to, I deleted all of the items in what to say. So that sets it back to 0. A length corresponds to how many things are in that array. So here I have 5 things, and I want to set it back to 0. So that's what that's for. Delete all of what to say. That sets the length back to 0. So here I'm refilling the script, and this is where your students would put what the other student had placed in her little list of things to say. She had placed a concatenated list of things that she wanted the person to say. So here is the screenshot of what she wanted to say. So do you see how this is concatenated one after another, which becomes a Word document, or it becomes a presentation rather than a program. You have to let the program do the work for you. So the best practice is to fill a list of what you want this sprite to say. So I filled the script. Then I do Ballerina Talks. So what I did was I had her, in the beginning, I set her to this, switch the costume to Ballerina A, where she's standing. But then I want her to go to the next costume. Then I repeat. Here, my counter starts at 1. I want this loop to repeat until this counter becomes greater than the number of lines. I've set the number of lines to 5, and that's how many lines I have in my list. So what I wanted to do is I want to repeat for the number of lines. So this is a stop. This number of lines right here will have her, this loop will repeat until this value. So this has to correlate to the number of lines in the list, and this is the repeat. It will drive this for the number of lines, the value that's in this variable. So that is a little stop variable, is where I want it to stop. Now inside of here, I'm going to repeat for the number of lines that I have. So it's going to repeat this 5 times as it's set right now. This is set to 5. This repeat loop is going to do this 5 times. It's going to say whatever is the item in the counter. So my counter I set first as a value of 1. So what it's going to do is it's going to have the ballerina say line 1, and then I'm going to change the counter by 1, which makes it number 2, and I'm going to switch the costume. It's going to go around 5 times. So this is the limiting value, which is number of lines. This is the counter, so that I'm driving the program through this list, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then what I'm going to do, happens to be 5 seconds. That might be confusing, so I'm going to just do it through 3 seconds. I'm not going to make it the same as that value. I want to make sure you realize that that's just the number of seconds that I want her to say this. I can make that a variable too, if I wanted to, but right now I'm just doing it for 3 seconds. I'm changing the counter by 1, so it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As soon as it gets 6, it's going to drop out of this loop. And then I switch the costume each time I have her say something. Then I'm going to broadcast done. She's going to say goodbye, and I'm going to switch to the costume, which is my original costume. So let's go through it again. So here, it's doing this block here. Welcome to my program that demonstrate loops. Now I filled the list, and it's going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and switch the costume. And then she is going to end. So do you see how this is so much less code and more efficient? So now what I can do, instead of trying to insert something, if I want to have her say something in between the second and third line, I can insert another line of her script. I would increase this number of lines to 6, right? So that I now have that as the limit. And then once it gets above 6, I don't have to change this variable. I just change it once here, so that I can then drive this conversation or this script using loops. Now this is something that you can use. You can reuse this code if you wanted to teach your students how to move along a sprite script, or you wanted to do this in your program. So I hope that that helps. Thank you.